Southeastern Bow Hunter Podcast.
All right, guys, we got my buddy Chris from Camo Dust on today. I met Chris down at the World Deer Expo in Alabama earlier this year. And I've been a fan of Camo Dust. I've never tried it up until I met Chris and we actually got to talking. That's also the same booth that we met Clifton at, which I know Clifton is affiliated with you guys and one of the coolest dudes I think I've ever met. So, getting to hang out with y'all was a lot of fun. Where I heard about you guys was actually from Richard Fott years ago. And I don't know if he's still part of the whole deal or what's going on with that. I'm sure we'll get into it. But man, look, Chris, first off, thank you for coming on, buddy. I know we've been talking about this for months, but what's been going on, dude? How's things been going?
It's just good thing it finally worked out. So it's it's the busy time. Everybody's trying to be in the woods. They're trying to figure out they're ordering, so I don't get to hunt. It's kind of like being a game warden. So it's those guys don't get to hunt a lot because they're trying to keep everybody in line, and I want all the deer to get shot. So I'm making sure if they orders go out on time. I kind of pride myself on getting it out same day. I mean, I'm literally 2 minutes from the post office. So if it's sitting there and it's a Friday and I'm getting ready to walk out and it's 4:15 and I see one come through, I'll try to pull it and make it to the post office to get it out so that guy will get a chance to, the way I look at it is, most of us are weekend warriors. And if you only get those 2 days, I don't want you out there without a can of Camo Dust or a sock to dust down. I really, truly believe that it gives you your best chance at seeing a decent deer, not getting busted by the doe, and have an opportunity at your best. But we can't wait on the wind, and if you're baiting or you have a corn feeder and the wind's blowing right at it, I tell people powder down, wash your clothes, you got to go in with clean clothes.
Yeah.
And then you powder down. I don't hesitate to tell people to go hunt their best deer in the worst wind possible. It's just there's been too many testimonies, too many guys saying I killed my biggest buck, too many guys out there in their work boots that are dusting down that are being successful, and they all say it's Camo Dust. I know luck has to do with it. You got to have the deer want to come through there when you're sitting in the stand, but you also don't want him to smell you, and we know how well they smell. So that's just it, man. That's what I've been doing. I think I've been once by myself. Did not. Yeah, one time went with my
good Lord.
Went with my son twice. Went with my daughter once, and then carried a buddy from South Africa on his first whitetail hunt. And he was successful and killed him a deer.
Nice.
So he got to check off a bucket list critter from him, even being from Africa.
Yeah, dude, that's wild. That wasn't one of the Stain guys, was it?
No, it's
okay.
Well, so Toby Stain, he uses Camo Dust over in Africa. But no, it was Keegan Horn over in South Africa. He just made it back. He was leaving Monday and texted me last night, or I guess last night, and told me he'd made it back. So I think it took him like 36 hours to get home or something like that. So
dude, that's wild.
It was a long trip. Yeah, he had some layovers and stuff like that, but he's back home fixing to go on a buffalo hunt and a diker. He's fixing to get into it and get some pretty cool pictures for us. So
good Lord, man. Buffalo. I can't even
Cape Buffalo. Yeah, he's living the dream.
Oh so, Lord, that is don't they call that Black Death over there or something like that?
Yeah, that's the big one. That's the one you want. That's the one you want to shoot with your bow, right?
Yeah, I'm not Josh Bomar pulling back 90 pounds and shooting with the beast broadhead and all that stuff. We've got our single bevels and stuff, so it might work, but I don't know if I want a 2,000-pound murder cow chasing me in the bush.
No, if I ever get a chance to go over there, I'll just shoot. I'll shoot a gun. I say that. Yeah. Carry my Raven. I see a bunch of guys with Raven pictures over there. They're knocking them down with those Raven crossbows. So
yeah, shooting 500 foot a second. I mean, hell, you'll blow straight through that thing. One thing you mentioned though, man, before we dive into the nitty gritty and stuff, I have to give my own testimony personally.
Good deal.
When I met you guys, like I said, I'd heard about Camo Dust from Richard Fott on the think it's Southern Outdoorsman podcast.
Yep.
And, I mean, it's the same thing that everybody will say, it's you're never going to beat a deer's nose, right? And I think you and I talked about this at the World Deer Expo. And I'm like, so what makes it different? And you explained everything to me. So I'm not going to dive into it. I'll let you explain it. But, I was like, all right, I'll give it a try because the stuff I was using last year didn't really work all that well. And man, I'm telling you, I've only been winded once. And it's only because I didn't dust back down because it had just rained and everything was wet, including the sock. And
right. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so and of course, that is when one of my target bucks shows up, and the only time I've had a chance at him this entire year, and then he disappears for 2 weeks. This is literally like this morning I figured all this out. He had just been gone for 2 weeks. He showed up last night, so I was making a game plan. For this weekend, we're gonna get a little bit of rain, but there's some pockets I can get into. And guess what happens this morning when those photos come in? He has shed one side.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yep.
Are you
Totally
kidding
gone.
me?
Totally gone. So now trike is basically fork, and
Man.
dude, I
Go
was
ahead.
so mad.
Go ahead and shoot him and then go shed hunting and find the shed.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know where it is too, because I saw the direction he came from,
Yeah.
and I haven't gone over there yet. If I get rained out
How
Friday,
long
I'll probably go.
how long has it been since he shed? Could you tell it was bloody or
One
has it
day.
been 2 or 3 days? Oh, one day,
Literally
really?
one day. Yeah. I have a photo of him with both antlers last night, both antlers overnight, and then my morning photos I got from the spot. That side's gone. And I
Wow.
thought at first he may have, broken it off because he's been rutting like crazy.
Mhm.
But I
That's
did get a
wild, did he?
close-up photo. And like, when they shed, they've got that bloody spot.
Mhm.
That's exactly what it was.
Really?
So I don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't know if rut stress got to him or what. But yeah, man. So going back to the camo dust, get off the depressing stuff.
That is sad.
Yeah,
Well, hey,
it
he's gonna
is.
be bigger next year.
Dude, that's what my buddy said. And the thing is, I know his
Yeah.
pattern early season. So as long as he
Yeah.
makes it through, I
Well,
mean,
now that he's already started shedding, just go ahead and throw the protein to him right now.
oh
Or
yeah, I am
the
planning on.
minerals and start him early
Yep.
and get him on and get him through the winter
Yeah. Oh
and
yeah. And this
he'll
place is
by
5 minutes from the
April
house. So.
he'll already have a good set of horns by April.
Oh yeah.
Shedding
And he
this early.
started
So.
growing like really early. So I'm not really shocked, because he was
Mhm.
fully grown out probably by end of
Old
July.
old deer,
Not
really
really.
old deer.
Not really. I
Huh.
don't think so. He doesn't look like it. He might be, but from my estimate, just on seeing excuse me, seeing another deer that I know is at least 5 years old, he's
Mhm.
maybe only 3. I mean, he's
Hmm.
not an old deer. So I don't know what happened. My buddies think it's rut stress. Because like I said, he was gone for 2 weeks. I know he was running around. Uh,
Mhm.
and he just, what's weird is when I got the photo of him last night, he looked weird. Like his coat looked extra shiny compared to everybody else. And I don't know if he maybe got sick and just decided, you know, to drop
Yeah,
that side.
drop it off.
I
Couldn't see
know
any holes
Lee.
in him or somewhere somebody had shot him or something like that.
No, he's perfectly fine from what I can tell.
Huh.
And I
That's
know
just a
that
wild.
Lee has dealt with that. Lee Ellis, he dealt with that with
Mhm.
Charlie a few years back, where he shed around this time and he was really sick. So he just started feeding him like crazy. So that's probably what I'll end up doing.
Yeah.
He showed up tonight, even just messing with me right in front of that camera. And I'm like, dude.
They know, man. They know.
Oh, they do.
They know.
But getting away from the depressing stuff, I don't want to start crying on this podcast. No, so I've been using Camo Dust this entire season, and there was one time that I believed it, because there's been a few times where the wind has shifted and I'm still seeing deer and they've never winded
Right.
me or anything. But the one time that I'm like, okay, I don't know what this does. I don't know what's in it. I don't know what kind of fairy dust this is, but it works. I was hunting public land 3 weeks ago, and I was actually just about to get down because my buddy Thor shot a buck, and we were gonna go, track it, and we did a whole episode on that. And it was really sad because we never found it. Spent 3 hours
Mhm.
tracking, didn't find a thing.
Right.
But to that point, and I know I'm going on a rant here, but I saw these 2 deer coming in directly from where the wind was blowing, and they never winded me once. I had a doe at 5 yards, was gonna shoot her, but she never stopped moving. And after that, dude, I was just like, okay, there's something to it. Because I mean,
Yeah.
I did the whole gambit. I dusted down in the truck, dusted down when I got out of the truck, dusted down in the tree, covered my stuff in dust because Clifton told me his method. And so I
Yep.
started doing that.
Right.
And it works, man. So that's why I wanted, to get you on. A big reason why I wanted to get you on after dealing with that whole thing is I just want to hear it straight from the horse's mouth, man. Like, what is so magical about this? If
Uh,
we'll just dive into it. I mean,
well, uh, so back to the time you did get busted. Uh, it had rained on you. So one way you can circumvent that. So Camo Dust works. It's dry.
mhm.
It's and I say it when I talk to people. It's the only dry scent eliminator on the market. Uh, yes, you have scent lock. That's you know I don't know what they call their stuff.
It's like
used to
ozone
be
or something.
charcoal or yeah, but
Yeah.
it's a it's some kind of charcoal or carbonate or carb. I don't know
Yeah.
what it is, but
Yeah.
I can't
Activated
speak
carbon.
on their what
It was
when you
activated carbon.
correct.
Yep.
So that's dry, but that stuff, what it does, the way it works, it's absorbing the molecule, right?
Mhm.
Right? And then you have to, so you're still putting scent out there, right? Or you're not eliminating scent. So so you know it's going to rain. You want to hunt in the rain. The best time, my favorite time to hunt, and I've never killed one, but I see guys all the time. They're killing monsters, 160-inch deer in drizzling rain, slow drizzle rain. Like right now, we're fixing to hit the second rut over in this little spot that I hunt on public, and I want to be there. It's supposed to rain all day tomorrow, and so Friday. I want to set if it does a drizzle, I want to be there tomorrow, and then I want to be there right after that rain too, right? So I know Camo Dust isn't going to work in the rain. Well, that's not really true. You have to powder down your base layer. Most of us nowadays have gear that's going to keep us dry, even if it's frog tog suit. Uh, powder down your clothes, and then put your rain gear on, and then get in your stand. Now you're going to sweat. Them frog togs they keep the air in. They don't let you breathe, but it wouldn't hurt. Stand up, kind of shake the water off of you, and dust down about every hour or two because you're going to perspire
Mhm.
inside that. It's like an oven, so you're
Yeah.
going to cook. Let your air kind of breathe out, let it breathe out, and then kind of powder down where you just did that. And I'll actually untuck my clothes and then kind of put it on my body, on my actual body.
Okay.
It'll kind of help me cool down. So that's how we hunt in the rain. Uh, you can't not hunt in the rain. You want to hunt in the rain, especially if you only get 2 days. If it's Saturday and Sunday, it's gonna rain
Yeah.
both days. I'm gonna be in the tree
Yeah.
somewhere, and so that's the rain part. As far as Camo Dust and the way it works, uh, we're dry. Your human scent molecule is moisture, and I wish I had a dollar for every time. If I had a dollar for every time somebody says, "Man," and told me your story, I'd be able to give everybody that hunts a can for free,
Yeah.
and then I'd have a customer for life for everybody because they would actually, when you see it or it actually passes the smell test,
Hmm.
as the deer just do not react to you, and they should when you've gone your whole life and watched deer react when they got in that certain situation,
Oh
and
yeah.
now they're not. Well, the only thing you did different was powder down with Camo Dust. So Camo Dust, we take a dirt, we grind it down finer than talc, so it'll saturate all the pores of your clothes. So it's a real fine powder,
Hmm.
and then we run that powder through a patented process that neutralizes and eliminates the human scent. So what separates me from everything is I don't wait until your human scent forms a bacteria, which is an odor.
Hmm.
I don't ever give it the chance. So Camo Dust is sitting in your clothes, and as your human scent molecule, which is a moisture molecule, actually passes through your clothes, it latches onto that dust particle, and that's when our stuff starts working. For it'll sit there till the end of the time, as long as it doesn't get wet or soak up moisture. It'll sit there and look for a human scent molecule. It's designed to take that molecule and break it apart before it ever forms the odor that's offensive to game.
That's so
So
good.
that's what separates us from everybody. Everybody else has to let it die, and then they as far as I know,
Yeah.
the ones that I'm familiar with, and I don't pay attention to anybody else's product. I don't use sprays. I use Camo Dust. There's really no reason for me to. I don't even. I mean, I'm dry, so I don't look at the sprays as really even being a competitor. I know they're in the same line or the same market, but
Yeah.
when people realize that you don't have to spray when it's 20 degrees outside, and this works, I think works better than anything on the market today. There's nothing out there that works as good as Camo Dust. It doesn't have a smell. It doesn't. It's not a masking agent. It actually it takes that molecule and separates it from forming an odor that's offensive to game. I can't say I can't say that I can eliminate 100% of your scent, but what I can say is I'm going to make, and Richard Fault, you've heard him, if you've listened to him, you've heard him say it. Richard's been using it for 25 years and has killed 30 Pope and Young deer off of public ground. Richard
He's
knows
a
what he's doing.
monster.
And Richard powders down, man. Richard's a big deer killer.
Oh yeah.
But if he can make that deer, which is what we think Camo Dust does, uh, a deer can separate every scent out there in the timber. They can tell a red oak acre and a white oak acre, and they can tell persimmon. They can tell a human. And I kind of, the way I explained it to a guy, I was talking to him yesterday, and the way I explained it to him, he smells like a skunk does to us out there to a deer. So it's that loud to
Wow.
them. So when we smell a skunk driving down the road, it's a loud odor to us.
Yeah.
It's when I say loud, it hits us and boom, you don't have to think twice. That's a skunk and it's
Yeah.
close, right?
And it sticks with us
Uh,
too. Like I've driven
and
down a
and
mile
it's
from the road and it's still there. And I
right.
know I'm
You
nowhere
can't
near that
get it. You
skunk.
have to roll the window down to get it out,
Yeah.
right? Well, he just took in that big whiff of your human odor. If he's within, let's say 100 yards, I think 100 yards is really giving the. Now I'm taking away from the deer because he can smell you at 300 yards if he wanted to, but if you're stinky enough, and when people hunt and they don't see deer, it's not because the deer wasn't there. It's because if you can't see 100 yards through the woods or 150 yards through the woods, and a deer comes downwind and smells you, they're not coming over there
Yeah.
to say, "Hey, is that really a human?" That's a skunk smell to them. They know it's that's how I mean that's the easiest in layman's term how you need to visualize your scent passing through the woods. Now, if I can make your smell, if Camo Dust can take away enough of your smell for that deer to think you're 300 yards away, see, they're not going to get scared at a human that's
Yeah.
300. They'll stay up on that bed. If you'll watch them on the ridges and you're like when you're shed hunting, pay attention to what they do. They see you coming, even if they wind you, because nobody does anything to protect their scent when they're shed hunting. They're just bebopping through the woods looking for a piece of candy, right? So when you see a deer bedded up on a ridge, work your way around him and let him catch your wind. If you're on the next ridge over or two ridges over, back out and see if you can keep them before they run out. And watch how, as soon as they hit your wind or when you get to a certain distance, boom, they're out of there. They know they've got their comfort level. But if I can make that deer think I'm 300 when I'm really at 30, and really, to be honest, it's 15 to 20
Yeah.
at full draw, uh, I have beat their nose. I have 100% beat their nose. And the guys that say you can't beat a deer's nose are guys that have never used Camo Dust. Because if you buy a can of Camo Dust and you put it to the test and you honestly prepare your clothes, you descent your clothes, wash them. I use all free and clear. It's cheap and you can wash the whole season will last. You get enough of it in a bottle, so
Yeah.
you don't have to wash your clothes as often using Camo Dust. But uh, let me see. The guys that do that and then have that mindset that you can't beat a deer's nose and then go put it those are the guys that come back and say, man, this stuff is legit. I've had one guy tell me that he didn't believe that you could beat a deer's nose. And I was at a show and he got a can. Well, I've got this one spot that I can't hunt this one spot without getting blown out of there. And I'm like, well, powder down on Camo. You do exactly what I tell you. Wash your clothes in all free and clear. Hang dry. Don't run them through the dryer that has all your wife's dryer sheets on them, but let them hang dry. And then powder down at the truck, 80 to 100 yards from your deer stand. And then once you get up, and I bet you kill that doe that's blowing at you. And he killed the deer, but wouldn't give something was different, or just some guys are just going to be that way. But I know if you've always hunted that stand and got blown out, and the one time you used Camo Dust, it's a success story for me.
Yeah.
You killed a deer, you shot a deer, but 95%, 99% of the hunters out there want to be successful. They want their buddies to be successful. And, you know, if you use it, if you try, it's like you said you've heard about it, you just hadn't tried it. Well, once you tried it, now you're
All
hooked.
I'm
Now
using.
you know you gotta have. It's just one of those things. You gotta have a rangefinder. You gotta have a weapon. And then you've got to have camo dust.
Yep.
You can kill them without camouflage. You know, you can kill them if you're quiet and you're still. You can beat their nose and their ears. I mean, their eyes and their ears. But it's hard to beat that nose. And
Oh yeah.
and once we start, I've just got to reprogram really the 20, really the 30 to 65-year-old man.
Yeah.
They've tried everything out there. They've been disappointed. It's like you keep dating the same girl and she keeps breaking your heart. Eventually, you'll wise up and quit messing with her. I'm not
Yeah.
messing with her no more. And that's what they've done with the scent industry or the scent elimination industry. They're tired of getting beat. You go out there. So now they just pay attention to the wind or they don't hunt this. It makes it harder when really deer hunting shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah.
It should just
So
be go.
one thing I want to ask you is I just thought of it. I remember Seek One did, and I watch all their videos, so those are my guys. But
Right.
um, I watched one of their videos about a year, maybe 2 years ago, where they tested, and this was like during the summertime, so obviously nobody's hunting. Um, they did a video with I don't remember if it was a police dog. I know it was a German Shepherd, but I can't remember what the dog had some type of job, right?
Tracking. Yeah. Tracking.
And
Yeah.
it may have been. I don't really
Right.
remember. But what I do know is that Lee had all the scent products, all the spray on stuff, everything.
Did he have
And
camo dust?
no, he didn't. That's what I was getting at. That's what I was
Yeah.
getting at. So
Right.
my question is or I guess part of the question is that, he used all of that and the dog smelled him every time. And their
Right.
conclusion was, this stuff might help, but it's not gonna, pretty
Right.
much beat
But
the nose.
and I
Have
don't
y'all tried
know. I
that?
didn't watch. I haven't watched the episode. I do know enough about dogs to know that they also go off heat. When that's
Really?
there's a heat signature there, right? And they can, especially with your humans. I've seen a study or I saw a video back 25 years ago where a guy was walking and he might have done something like this, but the guy crawled in a box. Crawled in one box and then crawled out of another box and then ended up in like the fourth box down. Well, when the dog got to him, you're sitting in there, it's like an oven. You're
Yeah,
always, producing that.
that's
But
true.
also the dog can tell you're there. The dog just knows by the skunk smell, kind of back
Yeah,
to that. Like it's light here. He was here, but now he's here. It's strongest here, and the dog sits down.
gotcha.
So yeah, I think I would like to see the same dog and then Lee do it. I don't know what he did, how he did his test, but powder down,
Yeah,
don't take the same trip. Don't, do it a different. Hey, does it matter with the day? I don't know anything about it, but I would love to see uh someone take an honest stab at it,
yeah,
and then if you can make the dog, if I can take off walking and I can walk and the dog and not powder down and the dog trail me for 100 yards and then I dust down and then I make a right hand turn and I powder down really good and then make a
yeah,
right hand turn. If that dog loses my track right there where I made the right hand turn, you beat that dog's nose at that point. Now he may have to circle back and pick you up again, but if I
yeah,
walk another 50 yards and I powder down, if I stayed on it and I powdered down and I had enough in my clothes, uh, I think after a 5 or 10 minute, you give it 10 minutes, and then turn that dog loose. I think I could be pretty good clip away before. And I'm a big fat guy. You get a little guy that doesn't smell, uh, and I think I don't know if I could beat the dog 100%. I would hope I couldn't,
yeah,
but I think I would beat him enough to where when I made a turn, he had to circle back. And if you
yeah,
have to circle back, if that dog doesn't just bird dog you and nose on the ground and just walk you right to you, then you beat that dog's nose because you're going to beat that deer's nose. You can't say it helps. You actually beat the deer's nose.
yep,
I've got there's thousands and thousands of guys that'll look you dead in the eyes and say, "I'm telling you, Camo Dust is legit," and they
yeah,
use the word legit. And if you set out there, and it's all about confidence. Clifton
hmm
is he probably said it 3 times when you were talking to him. Confidence is key.
Oh
You
yeah.
got to believe in what you're doing, but you also, it helps when you see it and there actually is, there's proof, you have proof. And,
Yep.
so yeah, I use Camo Dust and try it with a dog and make a turn and then make another turn, powder down really good, make another turn. I'm all for it. No telling how it turns out. I know
Yeah.
it's made to eliminate the human scent. You give it, you know, 5 or 10 minutes, let that track die down a little bit. That way your heat signature is not there. It's not as hot, you know. And then I think I got a good shot of getting quarter of a mile away from that dog without him finding me, especially if
Yeah.
he turns. If he circles,
If he
it'll be
circles,
there.
I
I
mean,
got a
that's
buddy. I guess I'm gonna have to do that. But
yeah.
it doesn't mean anything coming from me. I own the company. So I'd be like, oh, it's a dog that don't go
Get
to, it'd be
get
an
Clifton to
Arkansas
do it.
State Troopers dog. And they'd be like, you go to Arkansas, you can get
Right.
anything past him.
I mean,
But
you could
I
probably get
don't want,
Clifton to do it. He's got the YouTube channel.
well,
I'm
I would
sure he'd
hate,
be willing to try it.
me as a, me as a business owner, I would want to stay away from that.
Yeah,
I don't want the law to say, man, we're going to make you quit selling this stuff because
that's
I've
true.
got
I didn't
escaped
think about
convicts
that.
out here doing this stuff. So yeah, I didn't. I
Yeah.
mean, but I'm all for it. I mean, if it sells 1 million cans, then let's do it and sell 1 million cans. It's
Yeah.
I want people to be successful. I want, you know, I kind of started sponsoring the county winners with the Big Buck Classic here in Arkansas
Hmm.
uh 4 or 5 years ago, and I think the first year, yeah. So I guess it's right at 4 or 5 years. And every winter got a can of Camo Dust. I just wanted somebody that hunted big deer to have a can of Camo Dust. So I donated cans to the winners, and then I donated cans to all the. It just turned into everybody pretty much that all the kids get a can of
Oh,
Camo Dust, and then
yeah.
the top three winners in every category get a can of Camo Dust. But we're at the point where last year, this past season, in just 4 short seasons, uh, the biggest buck killed in Arkansas last year, the guy was using Camo Dust. The biggest deer that was killed that was entered in the Big Buck Classic, I guess I
Yeah.
should say. But it was a 200-inch deer. He was sitting on the ground and shot the deer 30 yards from him with his 30-06, and it was straight. He said directly downwind, straight down, dead downwind is a very, very good name to name a product, dead downwind. But
Yeah.
I don't know how many times guys say, man, that deer was dead downwind, just straight
Yep.
downwind from me. And but that's a 200 and something inch deer straight downwind
Yeah.
and the guy was sitting on the ground, so his scent was on the ground. His scent was right there at that deer. It wasn't going over him. And
Yeah.
he shot that. But we had I think 8 of the top 15 spots that all, they weren't all first place, but they were first, second, third places in each division, muzzleloader, bow, uh, and then I think it was like 45 deer total. Uh, that I made little ribbons that said Camo Dust on them. So we got to hang them
That's awesome, dude.
when they entered them. They get them scored here, and then
Yeah.
the biggest deer win. The overall deer wins, and then the county winners win a plaque and a goodie basket and all that stuff. So, it's pretty neat to see like 40. I think it was 49 deer uh, out of a couple hundred that actually made the wall, and then of those 200 deer that were on the wall, we had 15 or 8 of the top 15 deer. So that were
Crazy.
using Camo Dust. So I mean, and the reason I thought of it and wanted to do that and I had Candy, a lady that helps us out a lot. She sat there and asked everybody that entered the deer, were you using Camo Dust when you kill it? And we were surprised. I mean, I just kind of wanted to know.
Yeah.
And but I want people to see big deer and associate them with Camo Dust because I hear it so many times each season. Hey, I killed my biggest buck. This is my biggest buck. I killed my biggest deer, my best deer ever, using Camo Dust, and they thank me,
Yeah.
and I'm grateful for that because we're putting out a quality product and we're helping people kill bigger deer. So that's what we're all out here for. We all want to kill the biggest deer in the woods,
Oh yeah.
and fill the freezer with does and kill the biggest one out there. So
Yep. That's the
you've been
goal.
doing it since you were 4 years old and watched Bambi. So yeah,
Yeah, man. Well, and the thing is too, like, when I first heard Richard talk about it, I think I already said this, but I was like, it's just another, gimmicky thing. Because there's so many different scent stuff. Like you mentioned dead downwind.
right.
That's what I used to use before I got with you guys. And man,
Yeah.
you said something earlier about, when it's 20 degrees outside and you're spraying wet, spray on you, dude,
Mm-hmm.
you feel it. And that's one of my favorite things about Camo Dust is that it's not cold. You don't have to worry about, spraying on it. And then you look at your arm and it's frozen because it's so cold out.
Right.
And like I
Or
said,
the bottle freezes up.
huh?
I have a ton of guys tell me that the bottle freezes up, or they have to
Yeah,
fight
yeah.
freezing bottles. So,
I've had
yeah.
that. I had a bottle
So,
of Dopey freeze up on me a couple weeks ago. I mean, it's crazy. But the thing with Camo Dust is that, I I tried it and it's all I'm going to use now. I mean, literally, I've already bought
mhm.
I got the one can from you guys at the World Deer Expo, and then I bought another one because I was using it so much. And
Yeah.
that kind of makes me wonder though, like, are y'all planning on making a bigger can? Because I don't know, I forget what size I got. I think I got the biggest size you guys make, and I was done with it
Now, yeah,
within a month.
right now we only have one size.
Oh, okay.
It's 6 ounces. Man, it's usually like 8 to 10 hunts.
Mhm.
Guys get carried away and get 4 to 6 out of it. I try to make it, yeah, I try to make it where we've got the singles, the doubles, and the 6 packs.
Okay.
And the 6 packs usually the best deal. We sell a ton of doubles.
Yeah.
A lot of guys look at it, and I think the first time buyers get the double. It's $35 for 2 cans. I would love to have it in every hunting store in the nation. So I mean, if
Yeah.
if any of your listeners have a bow shop and they want them, tell them to look me up, camodust.com, or you know, call me on my, they can. There's a number there they can call, and they can send an email, call, get in touch with me, and I'll set a dealer up everywhere. I think we're right at 80 stores right now
Okay.
in like 17 states, but and it's all just word of mouth. We started hard here in Arkansas. The first year was internet sales only, and then I think we went to like 23 stores the first year and
Yeah.
grew to about, I don't know, 50 or 60 here in Arkansas, which that's pretty much all the hunting stores.
Mhm.
And Arkansas is a small state, but I'm in areas where it's really, there's only a few places where it's longer than 30 minutes to drive to get it. But man, if you hit camodust.com, buy it, it's going out that day. You'll get it in 2 days. We do U.S. Postal Service. They're they've been really good to us. And it's I mean, I shipped it to Maine. It made it to Maine. How does it make it to Maine in 2 days?
I
There's
don't
a
know.
the only place that I have ever had one go over 3 days was Kansas, and I guess I don't know why, but it took 5 days for it to get to that spot in Kansas. But
Yeah.
that was the longest one, and I guess the mail only ran to that town once a week. I don't know, but you
Yeah.
can get in some parts of Kansas where you're in the middle of nowhere. So,
Yeah, that
but
state's crazy, man. I remember driving through it
yeah,
when I went to Colorado, and it was just mind blowing
yeah,
how flat and how big it is. But I actually have. I'm glad you mentioned something about trying to get into some stores because I've got one down the street that I know the Bowtech guy, the guy that's the Bowtech up there. And I don't know if
mhm.
he's an owner, but I know he's
Hey,
pretty high up
you
there.
froze on me. Yeah, you froze up on me.
Am I there?
Yeah, I got you now.
All right. What I was saying was, is I have a shop down the street with this old guy that knows like literally everything about every bow. And so I will talk to him the next time I'm up there and see if I can't get him to give you guys a call. And then there's another bow shop that I go to in Augusta, which is about 2 hours from here. I'd go this Friday, but I'm not going to have time, unfortunately. But the next time I'm
Mhm.
up there and I have time, I'll stop in and see
Yeah,
my buddy Casey and I'll talk to him because they carry almost
anytime, man.
everything.
Yeah,
So
and it's becoming here in Arkansas. It's not even a seasonal product. I always thought it'd be a seasonal product, and I could ramp up production in, you know, May, June,
mhm.
July, and then get ready for the hunting season for August. Thinking maybe we'd ship out. But man, I've got these stores around here still ordering. You know, when there's guys still coming in, they use it predator hunting. And it's big here in Arkansas. So guys,
Yeah, I bet.
hog hunting, any guys that are killing hogs or killing predators or trappers are using it. So uh, uh, it's really starting to take off with some trappers around here local, and they're using it, and then predator hunting out in Texas and anywhere where it's hot. I've got buddies that are going in July and shooting hogs at 20 yards in July heat. I think it was, I don't know, sometime in July, and it was
Yeah.
hot as all get out. And he's like,
I was
man,
gonna
this
say it
one's
gets hot over there.
30 yards. Yeah. Wind
Like it
blowing
gets
right
hot
at them,
here,
and the
but
hogs. Yeah. So you beat hog's nose, deer nose, bear nose. Blaine Anthony's been talking in the deer stand, and the bear, they live off that nose. They trust that nose over everything. I've got a video on it's on my dad's phone. Well, I think it's on it. He had sent it to me, and then my phone crapped out and I lost it. But if he still has it, or if it's on his computer, he sits there with, I don't know, 7 or 8 doe bedded under him. And when I say bedded under him, they're all from the base of his tree, maybe 10 yards.
oh wow.
And they're just all just right there. And they stayed there for like 45 minutes to an hour. And he had enough. It was like 11 o'clock, and they were just bedded up on that hill with him right there. And he was like, all right, y'all ready to go? And he's just talking to these deer. And these are wild public land deer. Like this is
Yeah.
on public property. And he's videoing them, and that they perk up, and the old mature doe stands up. And she's standing there, and he's like, hey, let's go. I'm ready to climb down. And the other ones are looking around, and you can see them. You can see that old one throw her nose.
Yep.
And she's facing into the wind, and she's got that nose because she can hear him, and
She
she
doesn't
knows
know
she
where
should
he's
be able to
at.
smell him. Yeah, and they're looking around, and
That's
yeah. So they're and then anyway, they just all kind of got up. He kind of said, "Get out of here! I'm climbing down."
yeah.
And of course,
Man,
I
I
told
had
him, I said, "You
something
should have hit one with a sock." So
right. I had something similar to that, and that's why I say it's borderline magic with this stuff, man. Because I I went on a public land hunt maybe 3 weeks ago, like right when everybody got sick. And that's kind of why we had to push this because, I was sick, my daughter was sick,
right,
my wife was getting a little sick, everybody's sick right now.
yeah,
And, but anyway, so I was going in that morning on this public land hunt and I dusted down and I don't even know why I did it. I guess just because I wanted to have the best chance, right? Like everybody else would. But it was raining a little bit. So I'm standing out there just dusting down and I'm thinking, okay, well, it'll stop soon. I'll do it when I get in the tree, just like I did the week before. And man, I walk up. So basically, the spot that I was set up it's by a pond. So I walk around the pond, take a right, and go into this funnel between two fields. Well, I've got my headlamp going and I'm looking around, making sure I'm not going to bust anything. And I look up and I see 2 sets of eyes. And I'm within 50 yards of these deer, right? Like I know they're deer. I'm thinking, all right, whatever, I'm gonna bust them out. I keep walking and they're just looking, like they're kind of doing that head bob, like when they're kind of like, what is that? And they can't really tell what it is. And the wind's blowing directly towards them. Like an idiot, because I still play the wind. Even when I use Camo Dust, I still play the wind just to
right,
have everything covered. But I was like, man, it's the last day of this hunt. I have to go in. So screw the wind. I'm going anyway. I get within 20 yards of these does. Now, I don't know if the headlamp made them freeze. I don't know. I don't know if it was that and the mix of the fact they couldn't smell me or what the deal was. Dude, if I wanted to, I could have easily drawn back on these deer and they did not care that I was standing right there. Now, I wouldn't do that, obviously, because it's dark, but
right,
I got to thinking about it. I'm like, man, the wind was blowing in their face. The only thing that I did was dust down. And I've had deer, 40 yards with the headlamp, and they'll look at you, and the second you take a step, they're gone. These deer did not care. They did. If I ran at them, I probably could have pet one as they were running away. That's how close I was.
yeah.
So
They trust that nose. Yeah,
yeah, dude. And it's just people are gonna think I'm over here just ramping you up and giving you all this praise. And no, I mean I firmly believe in this stuff. Like it has proven itself to me time and time again. And if you do it right, it works. I mean,
you're right.
Clifton gave me a great idea, and I tested it because I wanted to see what would happen. He said, take your take your work boot. The boot you wear all day long, you're sweating and
Oh
it
yeah,
smells terrible. He said, take your work boot, dust it down. I forget how long he said. I think I let it sit for a couple minutes and went to smell it, nothing. I came back 2 hours later, went to smell it, nothing. And I'm like, it's magic. It's freaking magic, dude. Whatever you guys make, I don't know what is in there, but whatever it is, it works.
It is a very interesting process. But the boot thing is is just an added bonus. It's it is it takes a little bit. It's not an instant, like it's not instant. So that's why I said with that dog, give it 5 or 10 minutes. Give it 5 or 10 minutes with those boots. It'll knock them out. Man, hey dudes, I've had 2 or 3 mamas tell me that here around town, they'll sprinkle hey dudes in their kids' shoes. Oh, I got a guy. Uh, I got an email or a message. I can't remember. You got to think I talked to so many people,
Yeah.
and I feel bad because I can't remember. But anyway, I guess might have sent me a picture with his boys, but he had carried both of his boys hunting, and one of them threw his foot up on his dad's lap, was going to lean back and take a nap, and the odor from the hay dudes blew him out of the blind. He was like, "Oh my god!" So when they got home, he powdered down the hay dudes with Camo Dust,
Yeah.
and completely knocked out the stink. I've got a little buddy, one of my buddy's son. He's I guess he's in the 8th grade now. And I was sitting at a volleyball game watching my daughter play volleyball, and Wiley bebops up, sits down beside me. He said, "Hey man, watch this." And he reaches over in his backpack, and in his water bottle holder, which is why we went with the can, because it fits in, each backpack's got a water bottle holder on each side.
Yeah.
And that little webbing, that can fits down in there perfect, right? So anyway, he whips out his backpack and he's got a can of Camo Dust. I said, "Boy, what are you doing with that at school?" And he said, "Well, my pads, my clothes, my football clothes were stinking, and they had washed them and they still smelled. So I just dusted everything down, and my cleats were stinking real bad. So I powdered my cleats down, and now I don't stink. I'm the only one on the football team that don't stink." And I'm like, "Man, you got it going on, Wiley."
That's crazy.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So
that's a smart kid.
Yep. So he was using Camo Dust to eliminate the stink in his football pads and
That's
football
so
shoes.
funny,
So
dude.
it has crazy applications. I can't say, I mean, it does, because too many people have told me it doesn't. But I love it when I get a picture of a guy sitting in his work boots. And I usually keep all my stuff in a tote in the back of my truck.
Yep.
I'm the only time I probably don't is after we've killed a deer and the bed's bloody and I don't want my tote messed up, so I'll pull it out, and then I don't stick the stuff back in my truck, and I'll get caught, going to throw food out or something like that, and I've got my hay dudes on, so I just powder my feet down. Of course, I'm in this stuff all day anyway, so I mean, I would hope my feet wouldn't stink, but I go ahead and powder. I powder down when I bait. I powder down. I've got a little spot south of town that I take the kids hunting, and I'll ride the little side by side. A lot of times I'll just pull pickup truck right up to it, hop out. I powder down right there at the truck, throw out 4 or 5 buckets of feed, and then some other stuff, and then I'm out of there. And I try to do it in the middle of the day when I'm not going to blow one out. Very rarely do I get a 1:30 picture, and I'm usually going to lunch about 1 o'clock anyway. So I'll make a round, is what we like to call it, and go ahead and bait.
Yeah,
And
that's
that way
what I usually try to do. I'm not as good as you guys. I probably should powder down before I go.
Well, I tell you,
out,
I keep a sock in my. There's always at the first of the season I put a brand new sock. This is why we come up with a 6-pack. One, it fits perfect if it fits, it ships padded envelope, right? But other than that, a 6-pack, because I keep one in my bag, I keep one in my tote, I keep one in my truck. So I've got 3 cans right there to get me through the first half of season, right? And I know the one in my bag is going to go first, but the one at my truck, like I'll powder down at the truck, it goes right in the floorboard of my truck. So it's it's kind of, I guess guys have ozonics or other stuff like that. I don't expect it to work. I just expect it to be there. I know it's going to be dry. I'm not running a bunch of scents in my truck. So, the sock's safe in the floorboard right under my left foot, right inside my truck. When I get out, I powder down. I walk to the back and I put my clothes on, or I'll take that sock to the tailgate and leave my truck door open, and I'll powder down as I get dressed at the truck. And then, so that's my first time I powder down. And then I've got the one in my backpack. So when I get 80 to 100 yards from my stand, I powder down again. And then I always keep one in my tote just in case. I never know. Like sometimes I'll hunt without a backpack. So I'm just grabbing my bow and heading to the blinding. Uh, the kids have a sock in their backpack. They're dusting down themselves.
Yeah.
We'll get the front, kind of teamwork and get the back. But I like to face the wind, let the
Mm-hmm.
wind blow the dust on me, all that fine dust, the little stuff. You got to think how small a human scent molecule is. So the camo dust that you can see is going to soak up a lot of human scent, and the little bitty fine particles you see in the air. Like I'll take my hat off, wipe my hat through it, because anything that sticks to that hat's going to eliminate
Yeah.
scent. I'm the world's worst at wearing the hat that I wear around all the time that smells,
Yeah.
and I'll be like, dang, I didn't switch hats. And so I'll just take my sock and I just cake it in there real good, do the front back like that, and put it on. That dries my hair out, but I use shampoo and it moistens my hair right back up when I get home and take a shower. So I mean, it doesn't
Yeah.
hurt my hair to be dry or brittle for a couple of hours during the hunt. I just
Yeah, I
don't
mean,
want to.
early season, man, when I was using it, because what ended up happening, it was the second weekend of season. So down here, it doesn't even start getting cold till I don't even know, man, middle of October, I guess.
Mhm.
And I say cold, it's really only 40 degrees. Like yesterday or this morning was I think 25. It's the coldest we've been.
Mhm.
And so, it's a late summer shower and all of that. It's hot. I'm not wearing multiple layers. So my mistake was, and what's funny about it actually is, so I got in the tree like super early, and the sun doesn't even go down around that time till 7:30, 8 o'clock. I get in the tree at 2 and I'm thinking it's going to be fine. I didn't think it was going to rain. Dust down at the truck, get up in the tree, dust down, everything's good, right? Starts raining. And I'm like, all right, I'm looking at my phone. It says it's going to stop at 3. So I'm sitting there just getting wet. And I'm like, all right, it'll pass. 3:30 rolls around, still raining. 4 o'clock rolls around and it's still raining. And I'm like, all right, well, I've gained about 20 pounds of water weight. I'm soaked to the bone and I was actually cold, believe it or not. And I'm wearing, like a thin uh, early season shirt and just thin early
Mhm.
season pants. So I get down and I guess the weather app was lying to me because it rained again. But I get down, I go to the the truck, right? And I'm kind of thinking, I'm like, man, do I really want to get back in the tree? Do I want to even take this chance? My wife's already mad I left so early for no reason because the buck that I was after was kind of showing up a little bit like 3:30 and then 5:30. So it was kind of a hit or miss thing. Well, anyway, I get
Right.
back in the truck. I change into different clothes, dust down again in the truck while it's still raining, get back out, walk back to the tree, climb up, dust down again, and it rains again. And I'm just like, dude, what's going on? Right? I didn't think to dust down a 10th time or whatever it was. And
Right.
that is
Right.
what got me. So going back to, the whole thing, like I remembered, when I got in the truck, even the stuff that was kind of wet, which this was sort of surprising to me. When I dusted down the first time, I rolled my sleeves up because I knew it was a human scent molecule. So I'm like, I'm gonna get it everywhere that I can. My
Mhm.
arm, even though I was wet, still kind of had that dry, you know,
Does look like it had dried.
tacky,
Uh,
yeah, like tacky
yeah.
feeling.
Right.
And I was like, dang, dude, this stuff
It
works. Like
has
it
like
actually stuck to me, and
right.
it just blew my mind.
So we dry the free moisture out of that dirt, so it'll attach to a moisture molecule, and
Mm-hmm.
so it has. I mean, I deal with some stuff that we package for another company that is used in the pharmaceutical industry, and it is negative, like I think it's like negative 14 or 17% moisture, and
Wow,
yeah, so it is.
dry.
It actually, when you look at it through a light spectrum, it is it looks like as white as snow, the whitest bright snow you can. But
Yeah,
if you leave it, like we don't expose it to air, can it be exposed to air for longer than about 17 seconds? And uh if you looked at it through a light spectrum, it will go from white to yellow if you leave it out longer, in just 30 seconds of air, and you've ruined that bag of material. So and it's used to purify medicine. So it's there's a that's we're on that same level
Yeah.
with the free moisture dried out of it. And the more it, you got to look at it kind of like, just dumb it down a little bit instead of looking at all the science and the molecules and all that stuff. You can't take two dries and make them stick together, right?
Yeah.
Well, then if you manage to get kind of like a sponge to soak up, and Clifton uses the sponge deal a lot, and I like it, but a sponge eventually take up so much, right?
Yeah.
And then it don't. Well, that's a great thing. That's what separates. We're not really a sponge, but we act like a sponge, right? We soak it all in. We don't let it out. Like, none of your bad scent goes out. So if you're trying to do two liquids, the kill on contact with liquid,
Yeah.
you spray down, it kills the bacteria. And it's funny, if you go back and watch some of the old videos where they're talking about the liquids, like some of the old hunting shows, and they're talking about a spray. They're not using the word enzymes and molecule or bacteria or any of that stuff. The call kind of came along in the last couple of years, where
Yeah.
they're finally having to change the wording to get people to try. And I'm sure they're developing more product and they're getting better. The science is better for them, and you've just got to decide whether you're going to spray or not. And then I come along with something dry that is completely different. So, but the sprays work on their kill on contact, or the ones I'm familiar with. There might be some that I don't really know. I probably shouldn't even talk on it because I don't know enough about it to even. I just understand how it works. It's like bleach. It's going
Yeah.
to kill it. But the thing about it is, your bacteria has to die for
Yeah.
them to want to kill that odor, and that's what makes us a little different. I kind of talked about that earlier. So I mean, it's just one of them deals. So
Yeah. I mean, you
it's
guys, I feel like, are just, you're part of the scent game, but you're totally different. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing else out there. I guess people could
it's not.
consider,
Right.
like the ozone
It's not.
stuff, but
It's you've got well, not attractants, but cover scents. No, nobody wants to come home and smell like deer pee. Nobody
yeah,
wants to
I've done
come
it.
home and smell like fox pee. Nobody wants to
Yeah.
come home. You don't want to. I don't want to have. I don't want the deer to know I'm there. I don't. I don't use urines. I've never been successful with. I don't understand how to do it. I guess I don't know. I've tried it, never been successful with it, and I've not just tried it. Well, I take that back. I killed a great deer in Kentucky, and I was using Trails in 307.
Mhm.
But I made a mock scrape, and now I killed that deer, but I had made a mock scrape, and then I'd put that Trails in 307 on the licking branch, and then I poured some in there. I poured way too much. It smelled like licorice to me,
Yeah.
which kind of has a doe in heat. It was just a weird. It
It
had
is a
that.
little
It had a
similar.
sweet smell that you smell, but anyway, it did not affect the does. I probably saw 40 deer before I saw this buck. Probably I would say 40 total, and probably 10 different bucks.
Mhm.
And then this one come through. He was not rutting at all when he come through. He was, I would say, pre-rut.
Mhm.
He wasn't even, he didn't even have a big neck. He was just he was cruising, and kind of went downwind of the doe. Wind was blowing right at the feeder,
Mhm.
and every deer that had come in, there was 30 turkeys around. You know, at any given time, there was 10 or 15
Hey,
deer. It was
man,
a fantastic hunt. Yeah.
where were
And
you? Jeez.
I'm sitting there. It was and so I'm sitting there, and this deer comes, and he scent checks those doe, and then he walks. And when he got directly downwind of that scrape,
Mhm.
he stopped. And every kind of like a dog that's fixing to fight, their hair stands up on the back of their neck.
Yep.
Every deer on that back, that deer's every hair on that buck's back stood straight up, and he just blew up, just went stiff as a board, like just postured up, got real hard. And I watched that deer go into full on rut at that. He walked up there. He would not get in it, but that deer got about 10 yards away from that scrape, made another, he ended up making 3 scrapes, made a triangle and bedded in them and stayed there. I couldn't decide whether I was going to shoot him or not. And I actually called my brother who was hunting with me. And we were talking to him. I was talking to him. And he said, "Would you shoot it on the last day?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd shoot it." He said, "Well, then shoot it today, you know." And
Yep.
this was the second day of the hunt. And I didn't, I still, at that point, I still didn't shoot him. And I was just letting him sit there. And he finally stood up and walked off. And when he left, I wasn't tore up about it. I wasn't excited. It was pretty neat to watch it happen. And but that deer, every time a new deer would come in, he'd go down there and scent check her, and then he'd stiff leg it back and kind of stand there for 4 or 5 minutes. I mean, he was there forever.
Yeah.
And then he walked off, and about 30 minutes later, he came back, and I looked at him with the scope instead of my binoculars, thought it was a different deer, and I shot still fantastic, and I love that I shot him, but he looked bigger. I made the mistake. I bow hunt so much that you don't ever look through a scope. They always look bigger in a scope.
Yep. That's true.
But it, you know, of course, I had it on like 6 or 8 power. He was zoomed in it, and it just looked like a big old rack. So anyway, I shot him. He dropped in his tracks, and my hunt was over. I got to shoot a doe, couple of does, and then I ended up waiting on a turkey. Have I been cutting out?
A little bit.
Any?
It's a little choppy, but it's not that bad.
It just said that I was it just said that I was a little unstable. So,
Huh.
but that was
I
a
don't know, I
fun
can
hunt.
still hear
I
you.
ended up turkey hunting.
Well, and
But yeah, straight downwind. He was downwind to me most. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that's the thing about like
But the peas.
the what?
Well, I got a little off track and told a story. I'll talk the horns off of Billy Goat if you want me to. But
No, you're good, man.
I was talking about peas, you know, using scent and cover scents and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I think if I'm gonna use a scent, I want to do something that attracts that they're gonna eat, you know, like a corn scent it was funny. I just told my dad about an hour ago. Today's Wednesday, so on Monday, I haven't had a buck picture. I haven't had a legal buck to shoot on camera at this farm down south.
Mhm.
I haven't had a legal buck in 2 weeks, 2 solid weeks, and I went and put this stuff called swamp chomp out. And last night I had 5 different buck deer in the camera, and they stayed there. I'm
Wow.
sure there's not very much swamp chomp left as long as they
Probably
stayed.
not.
But one of them was a buck that I haven't seen in probably. Well, I know I hadn't seen him in 2 weeks, and the last time I saw him was when I had swamp chomp out. So
Yeah.
Friday morning, I'm probably going to throw a lot more out so the kids will get a shot at him, and maybe we'll get him to daylight. So,
Yeah. I mean,
bait him in,
going back to the scent stuff, you know, I know you guys aren't like a, you know, scent company really like that, but you know, I've tried quite a few. All right. Like I've got a guy in Atlanta that I've used his stuff where, you know, partnered up with Nose Down. So I use their stuff. I've used Fatal Obsession. I've used Tinks. I've used everything under the sun. I feel like the only thing that I've seen from my personal experience that works is the stuff that is they either based on a gland, you know, like I know Fatal Obsession has gland juice in it. Dennis Lewis came on and described or pretty much told, you know, the whole deal behind that. And then I know Nose Down has this Tarsal Extreme that it is synthetic, but it smells exactly the same from what I can tell, at least, as the other, you know, what would you call it? I guess natural, non-synthetic stuff.
right?
And that stuff works. I mean, that stuff is fantastic. And you know, I recently tried some stuff that Michael Waddell sent me for their new Bone Collector scent line, and it worked as well. And it had the gland stuff. So going forward, that's kind of what the only thing that I'm going to use is a gland based, you know, scent because it's the only thing I've seen work. I've tried the Doe and Estrus, and it doesn't.
And I'll tell you, I have used it's Conquest, the yellow bottle. It's not. It's Evercom.
Yes, I've heard good things
I've
about that.
used
I haven't
that.
tried that one.
Now, so we use that. I had to walk through a bedding area
Mhm.
to get, and when I say walk through a bedding area to get to where we wanted to hunt, the only way in was it was surrounded by private, but if you got to where the deer were moving through, it opened up and
Mhm.
it was kind of landlocked, right? So we just busted me and my brother. We take that Evercom, put it on our boots, pat her down real good, and walk through. And we've pulled. Jason has pulled some good deer out of there. I don't. I wound them or make. I'm a horrible shot. So, uh,
Gotta
but
practice.
yeah, or just completely miss. I've shot so many trees down there. I mean, the farthest shot you're gonna have is like 15
Oh
yards. It's just
no.
the nastiest stick stuff, and
Yeah.
it's river bottoms. It's a thicket. But Jason went down there one day, and this was they were really starting to get hammered up good, and he had powdered down and put Evercom on and was strapping his climber onto the tree,
Hmm.
and he heard grunting, and we use little green lights
Hmm.
walking in, can't see more than 10 yards,
Yeah.
and he heard grunting and he kind of looked up and there was a buck standing there. He said it wasn't a little buck, it was a big buck. And
Of
he
course.
said, I'm looking at him and I can't, like he said, I have to move my head because I'm breathing so hard now because I'm panicking
Yeah.
because he's grunting and he's less than about 6 yards from him. And that deer's standing there, like can't figure out, I don't know if they can see the green or if he could just see, but he could smell in the
Yeah.
Jason's breath. He said, my breath was hitting that deer in the face. And he said
Oh
that
my.
deer, he said, I stepped around. Like he said, I'm standing there facing the tree in my stand. He said, I
Yeah.
got the tree between me and him. And he's calling me from the tree. And he's like, we probably need to put on a can. Don't use with Evercom because it's dangerous, or at least don't sit on the ground. And he said, if I'd been sitting on the ground, that deer would have ran over me. But
That's
I guess he had
wild.
just smelled that and then
Yeah.
heard Jason scraping that stand on that tree and just was rutted
Just
up. And
went to
he
him.
just heard all that racket and was coming over there to fight or check it out or
Yeah.
whatever.
I've
And
had that happen. I mean, I used to do the whole spray the bottom of the boot thing, and I
yeah,
started out when I first started out, the only thing I heard to use was tinks. Now this is 5 years ago. And I mean, I've had good luck with tinks. I saw the biggest deer in my life by using tinks
yeah,
and running and all of that. I'm not going to say that that's what brought him in because I don't think he went to a spot where I sprayed it. That whole story, man, it's heartbreaking. Long story short, I was in a tree that was way too skinny, facing the wrong way, and I saw 1,000 squirrels that morning. Heard a branch break behind me, turn around, and there's this 160 10 point just standing there on public. And
oh no,
like when you get tired of it, you kind of forget you have to move slowly. So I'm just like, I hear it, I'm like, that's a damn squirrel, and I just don't even think about it. I just turn around, and he's 10 yards staring at me, just gone. So, I mean, that sort of thing will work. Um, I don't use it anymore just because that's probably one of the only times I've actually, this deer behind me right here. The day before I shot him, I wasn't even going to shoot this deer, but I decided to the next day. When he first came in, it was mid-October, and I had the idea, oh, I'm going to spray some, doe and estrus stuff just to see what happens. He came walking up the ridge, smelled it, and jumped 10 feet back because I guess it scared him. I don't know what the deal was. And he
hmm.
like put his nose down and just jumped back. And I'm like, what? What are you doing, dude? I didn't know what I was doing. It was my second year hunting, so I'm brand new.
Right,
And yeah, man. So some of it will obviously work, like with your buddy, and some
yeah,
of it will scare the crap out of him. But the stuff I've seen that works really well is that tarsal stuff. Anything
yeah.
gland related, it is the best stuff that you can get. So I don't know if you want to try it next year. Just something, food for thought. But
Do you make scrapes with it, or is it something you
yeah.
put out kind of like? Yeah, okay.
So the
Be
thing
neat to
I've
use with your
seen,
game trail cameras, right?
yes. And the thing that I've seen work the best is if you take the tarsal spray, let's just say that,
Mhm.
and you make a mock scrape. You spray about 4 sprays in the mock scrape. And then you get something that, and I don't know the scent companies out by you guys, but say you go with like Nose Down or Fatal Obsession or this other guy, Phillips Outdoors, any of them, doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Or if you go with the bone collector stuff, because bone collector stuff will work too. They have like, I guess for the bone collector stuff, they've got like that wax, kind of like branch butter. It's sort of the same idea. You put that on the branch that's hanging down,
Mhm.
they will hammer that. If you put any type of forehead gland scent on that branch that's hanging down, they will not leave that thing alone. I had probably 7 or 8 shooter bucks on public last year. Never
Really?
daylighted, but I used 2 different gland scents, one for the ground and one for the
Yeah.
branch. Hammered it. I
So
mean,
you quit
trust me,
hunting
hammered it.
scrapes, right? You don't hunt scrapes anymore, do you?
No, I do.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Even though you didn't have any deer daylight on scrapes? I just don't
Well,
hunt them. I stay away from them, or I'll hunt them, thinking maybe you'll catch one downwind of it. But I've been burned. I feel like I wasted more days when I was from 15 to
yeah. It's kind of a timing thing that I've learned.
18 that I said I'm never hunting another. I don't think I've ever killed a deer over a scrape.
I haven't, and I will say
Yeah.
that, but I could have, and that's why I still do it
Yeah.
because October 25th, just for whatever reason, this property I've got all my I guess you could say shooter bucks on. They always daylight then, and it's always during the week, so I can never go.
Huh.
And I called it, this year. I told my buddies, I'm like, guys, I've got this camera on this mock scrape. I guarantee you, at least one shooter buck's gonna daylight. Sure enough, he did, and so it's a timing thing. I feel like you have to
Hmm.
have them out early. Like I start my scrapes, shoot, man, middle of August, and I will have them hit it. And then especially like late September, early October, that's when I'll get, I'll put like 2 sprays of the doe and estrus just in the scrape itself. And I'll just make sure that, those branches and stuff are hit. The one thing that Dennis told me, and actually Dennis and Jason both, Dennis from Fatal Obsession, or I think that's what it's called. Yeah, Fatal Obsession, I think. And God, he's gonna kill me when he hears this. That company. And
Thanks, man.
Scrape juice, that's what it is. Okay, so
Oh
Dennis
yeah.
from Scrape Juice and Jason from Nose Down both told me the biggest problem guys run into with mock scrapes is they use too much because we all think because we can't
Hang,
smell it.
hang on, you cut out. They tell you what? Both of them told you what?
They tell me that the biggest mistake hunters use or do is they use too much. So instead
Mhm.
of doing, I think they said the most you want to do is like 4 pumps on the little spray bottles. Instead of doing that, I'm guilty of it. Everybody does it. You do like 10 because you're like, oh, I want to make sure this stays on there. What we don't realize, especially when it's the gland stuff, is that is an oil based scent. So it stays on there even when it rains. If anything, when it rains, it enhances it and the bucks then will come to it. The pea stuff, which is I might use one pea product now, and that's it. The pee doesn't make any sense to me because you spray it down in 15 minutes, that ammonia is gone, and then it just smells like regular pee, whether it's dominant buck, doe and estrus, whatever you want to call it.
Anybody's pee. You're right.
Yeah. So
Right.
that might be
No different
why,
than your pee. Yeah. Yeah.
it sometimes won't work for guys because you do too much, you'll freak the deer out because no deer pees a gallon, you know, no buck's gland is putting a ton of stuff on there. They're no, I mean, the
Yeah.
scent stuff. So
I
their
did have.
noses are so strong that you
Yep.
do too much, they're going to be like, oh, this is not natural. And it freaks them out. So
Yep.
that's my rant. But look, man, I want to,
Too much shit. And that's the name of the game. I don't want I don't want them to know I'm there. I mean,
yeah,
I've said it. Richard taught me years ago. I asked him, I'm like, man, and Richard and I were hunting probably 180 class deer on public ground. Neither one of us got it. I didn't know he was hunting it, or I would have been like, yeah, he's going to kill it because
yeah.
I saw the deer. Uh, of course, I had the deer at 20 yards opening morning of bow season, and I didn't have a shot. He stopped. I had no shot at his vitals. That deer, he came in on me. I didn't even know he was alive
Mm-hmm.
until he came in, and I drew back to shoot a doe, probably 7:15 in the morning, and finally decided which one I was going to shoot. They were standing right out in the open, and I hear, he grunts up, but he stays on the high side of the ditch and got in privet hedge. that was right there, and I didn't even realize how big he was. I just said, man, that's a wide deer. And I just raised up and I was like, I'm shooting him. He was so wide. I mean, instantly when I got a flash of him, like when did this, it was just flashes in the green because early bow season you can't see a lot, and I'm always hunting nasty stuff. So naturally, I just said, man, that sucker's so wide, I'm shooting him if he's got tines, and could tell his body was huge, and so I just kind of went up, from down shooting a doe to up on him, and I was waiting. I was like, step out and look at those doe. I'm fixing to kill the biggest deer of my life, opening day of bow season, and I was like, so relaxed. I've never been more relaxed, and that was the biggest deer. Like I didn't get buck fever. I didn't start shaking. I was cool, calm, collected, and knew exactly what I needed to do. Was already zeroed in on that pin, and was like, if he stops at the ditch, I'm gonna drill him right. I had it all planned, and that deer, another deer. I don't know if it was Richard or another deer. Something grunted up on the ridge, and that deer turned his head, and I saw tines, and I melted. When I I saw how tall them tines were, and how many of them it was, it looked like a hay rake, and I was like, "Oh my word!" And I was like, I couldn't stop breathing hard. I couldn't catch my breath. I was in panic mode, and I was like, I've never. I just thought I was fixing to kill my biggest deer because I ain't never killed one 20 inches wide, right? No, that sucker was a giant, and so anyway, Richard and I were hunting about a quarter. I don't even think we were that far apart. Like really, I think we were like 200 yards apart.
Oh wow!
Hunting both sides of the thing. We had went in there anyway. I just knew that was a great spot. He knew he'd killed a bunch of deer at that spot. So it was just one of those deals where he was hunting with experience, and he knew that big deer was in there. Now he wasn't hunting the same tree, but he was moving in that area, right? And I was hunting the same tree. I didn't move. Like once I seen him in that tree, I was like, I'm gonna kill him in that. I actually moved across the ditch because I could shoot about 40 yards, other than the 25 yard shot that I had from that one tree. I moved where I could get a 40-yard shot and then shoot on the other side of that ditch. And that's where I moved, which was about a 20-yard difference. And I stayed there for 40 days. I mean, every time I hunted that tree. And I waited on that deer to come back through. I didn't know anything. It was just, I wanted to hunt. I wanted to relive that moment. Right. And I asked him, I'm like, man, how do you pick the right tree? How do you know which tree? And he said, I don't. I call them to me. If I see a deer, and what I should have done, that deer was at 20 yards and I had him at full. When he busted out of there, why I did not get him, the does kind of left under me and went within 3 feet of my tree, like all 6 or 7 of them, however many it was. They all left and went back towards the big woods is what I call it. Left the bottom and went to the big woods. And that buck stood there, turned and realized those does had left, and he did not walk across that opening. He shot across it like it was a full speed.
Dang.
Something had spooked him, and he run right towards those doe and stopped at 8 yards from my tree. And I had one shot like on it, the left side of his neck was the only thing that I could see. It was just a bunch of old, and it's green, everything's green. Now, if that would have happened in mid-November, I'd have killed the deer. I would have been able to poke something through without a lens, or at least I would have thought I could,
would have tried.
But you couldn't see anything for all the green leaves and stuff like that. But anyway, and then that deer just kind of walked off and went with those doe. And it was unbelievable. And then like 40 days later, I was sitting there and he was on a doe. And I had him at 80 yards was the closest I got. I grunted and I was trying to grunt. Like you can, if you see a doe and she's running, there was a doe, a 4-point, and then that big buck. And so I grunted thinking that doe, I'll call her. She's not ready. She'll come over there to try to get those bucks to fight. And then she'll shoot out of there. It didn't work because she had 2 deer. Maybe it would have worked if she had one. But anyway, I called. She kind of come up my ditch a little bit, but then she shot through some cane and then went back to the big woods. And
It's
I texted my
heartbreaking.
dad and I said, hey, he's coming right towards you. He chased her. When they got to my dad, uh, the little buck was not anywhere around. It was just that big buck, and he
Mhm.
was like nose on her butt like this, and she wouldn't stop. And he never could get a shot. He bleeded and yelled
Ah,
hey
man.
and couldn't do that. And then she went and left. And I told my dad, my brother and my dad, I was like, man, he's 160 inches easy, when I seen him. And
Mhm.
so dad texted Jason and said, hey, that doe's coming towards you. And so Jason stands up and gets ready, and he just sees them through the way. He 40 yards from him. They were all around my dad. They stayed around him for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And she'd stop, and where she would stop, he could shoot, but where the buck would stop, he didn't have a shot. That deer was just, I don't know if he's smart or lucky, but we just never got. Anyway, they got past Jason. Jason gets in the truck. He didn't say nothing, like text and said, yeah, come by. Never got a shot. That was a big deer. We get in the truck, and he said, Bubba, you're a liar. And I said, what? What? It shocked me. I'm laughing now because it's funny the way he
Yeah.
said it. He's like, you lied. And I said, about what? He said, you said there's 160 inches. He said, that deer is a book deer. He said, that's a 175-inch deer. If it ain't 180.
And
And but it was a great big giant. It is the biggest deer I think I've ever seen
yeah.
in the wild that I could hunt. I mean, I shed hunt a spot in Louisiana that's a high fence. So I've been like 30 yards from a 230-inch deer, and it's an impressive sight, but it did not get me. I melted when that deer turned his head and I saw how big those tines were. I just couldn't keep it
Yeah.
together. But Richard fought, I asked him, how do you pick the tree? Because I'm thinking, I just I don't pick the right tree, right? Like some
Mhm.
guys have got it. Clifton's got it. Richard's
Yeah.
got it. Like they know. But Clifton will also send one at 60 yards. And I've
Yeah.
never like I
I
don't
don't know how he
shoot.
does that.
He practices all the time. That dude shoots his bow
Dude,
all the time. Like
he's a
him and Bo are out
monster.
there shooting. Yeah,
Yeah.
they practice, and I can shoot. Like back when I was shooting a compound, you shoot a bottle cap at 40 yards, and a
Yeah.
Coke bottle cap at 40 yards, you're pretty good. I mean, you're
Yeah.
zero, you're dialed in. I was comfortable at the 40. I never even thought about shooting past 40 yards.
Yeah.
First of all, I really very rarely hunted anywhere where you could shoot 40
Yeah.
yards. I always try to I know the deer aren't going to smell me. So I'm getting as close to their bed as they can. Like my dad's
Mhm.
got a spot. You can't walk through it, but there's deer that stay in it that will probably die and never get seen by a human. He waits until the wind is right and blowing in there. And then he goes, he hasn't done it in years, but I know he's done it 3 times and been successful all 3 times. When that wind is right blowing in there, he'll put Tank 69 bombs, like 5 or 6 of them,
Yeah.
like cotton ball down in there,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
couple
The
of
one that
drops of
hangs on the
Tank,
tree.
hangs them in a tree, and then sets back and lets his scent and the Tanks blow into that thicket and pull bucks out. So
Huh.
it's we don't worry about our scent,
Yeah.
and Richard and Clifton don't worry about their scent, but Richard, yeah, he said you got to call him. I called the deer to me, so he showed me how to blow a grunt call. I have since taught both of my kids how to blow a grunt call. My daughter doesn't sit in the blind. If she sits there for 30 minutes, like she won't think about it for the first 30 minutes of daylight.
Mhm.
After 30 minutes, she's like, let me have that grunt call. And she is tooting on that grunt call. And it is very rarely does she not call up a deer and have a deer come in. So she knows, you grunt on that thing, right? Like Richard, she was there when Richard and Clifton had the Team Knocked Up Facebook page, and they were really active. 17,000 members on that page, and there was guys talking hunting all the time. And Richard would do little videos, little tutorials from the deer stand. And Jillian just happened to be coming up at that time to where she was old enough to. I'd get on Facebook, turn it on, and she would scroll through and look at the pictures of deer that people had killed, and just passing time. And when Richard posted a grunt video, we saved it, and she practiced like listening in her ear and blow. Like when he would blow, she would blow. She would blow,
Yeah.
he would blow. She was just mimicking him, and then she got that cadence down. And man, she can call in. She can call those deer in. So it's pretty
Can
neat. It's
you
fun to watch.
can you
And
send me that video? Because Richard,
uh
so He's the
You would have to
one.
ask Richard for it because I went back and it's not. I don't think it's on Facebook. He doesn't even have that Facebook account that he made that
Yeah.
video on, so I don't think it's on his page.
Because I
So,
have
but yeah,
tried calling
he
like
can just
him,
sit there just any.
and
Oh,
it
really? Yeah, no.
doesn't.
You can listen to it with the phone and then
Yeah.
or and do it and watch. Like I've had does will answer. Keegan, I told you about my buddy Keegan from South
Mhm.
Africa killed a deer. Uh, some that buck that he shot was trailing a doe. She had gotten past one little opening that we have, and he said, "I just saw a doe and a buck pass." And I was like, "Well, get your gun up. They're going to go to that food plot right on the edge of the woods."
Mhm.
And he gets his gun up and he's looking out the window. And we sat there for probably 4 or 5 minutes and never see any deer. And I'm thinking they just turned and went
Somewhere else.
away from us, right? And then he says, and he's never been hunting before, right? Doesn't know how they're going to act or anything like that. So it's all fresh to him and new, and he's learning. And we've been talking a lot. And anyway, uh, he said, she just went across and he did too. And I said, well, how big was he? And he said, I don't know. Just there was horns up there. It was white. And I said, well, could you tell if it had three? And he said, no, it was fast. And
Yeah.
so I said, okay. And I grabbed my grunt call and I said, keep the gun up right where you saw her go in the woods or saw him go in the woods. And I grunted 3 or 4 times and then I turned and and hit it really hard
Yeah.
out the back way, kind of blew it that way. Here comes that doe, stepped right out in the middle of that little food plot. And then the food plot's 15 yards wide and it runs right down there. It's got CRP that's belly high to them.
Mhm.
But anyway, she steps right out in the middle and she's got her ears run up, looking right at us. And then she bebops straight to us. So she wasn't ready for that buck to be behind her. So she's just going to come down there and hope that other buck gets in a fight and then they
She
move
can run
on.
off.
So, right. And I don't think people grunt enough. I know they don't, but
Yeah.
those deer are making noise in the woods all the time. But anyway, she come down there and fed at the ditch that was about 50 yards from us. Started eating acorns and kind of went off. And then she Keegan, I was like, man, I don't think. I said he must have went on in the woods or she lost him or something. She doubled back. I said it may not even been the same doe. And I was kind of talking to him about why I did it, like why I was grunting, because he's sitting there and then all of a sudden I start making this racket
Yeah.
on this grunt call. So I kind of wanted him to understand a little bit about it and why I did it and all that. And he was, soaking it all in. And I picked up my phone and I started doing a little video. And I probably talked for 30 seconds, a little 30-second video for the YouTube page.
Mhm.
And and then he says, Chris, there's a buck. And I had just set my phone down, like on my leg, and had put my hands back in my pockets and was leaned back. And I looked, and all I could see, I couldn't even, it was so early that I couldn't even really see the horns on the deer. And he's looking at it through the scope, and I said, "Wait, let me get the camera up." And so I picked my phone back up, and I tried to zoom in. And I had just told him, like, "Hey, we got to make sure it may happen fast, but we got to make sure it has Arkansas has a 3 point on one side rule,
Oh, okay.
so you can, yeah, it has to have 3 points on one side." So I just told him that, and Keegan has killed a bunch of animals in Africa, right? So he wanted to be legal. He wanted his first one to be legal. We want the whole 9 yards. Well, I've got my camera and I said, okay, I'm on him. And he shoots. Well, when the deer runs off, I can just see a bladed up horn on that right side, like I don't know, 12 or 13, 14-inch
Jeez.
blade.
Yeah.
And I'm like, did he have three on one side? He said, yeah, it was a 4 point on the left side and then
Just a
straight
blade
up on the
one.
right side. Yeah.
Wow.
So it ended up being a 6 pointer. It was a 4 point on. I guess the left side was four, and then the right side had just a thick beam. It was uh, had a lot of mass to it, and then an eye guard, a little beat up eye guard that was about that
Yeah.
long. So his first deer was unique, crazy horn deer that had six on one side. So he was tickled. I was happy. I had told him when we went hunting, I said, "Man, I can promise you we'll get a doe." I said, "I cannot say anything about a buck, but
Yeah.
it all worked out just right. I knew we were hitting it just right for deer to start cruising through that little spot. So that's why we picked it, and it worked out just right." But
Yeah. I mean, Richard is literally the guy that, because before, I I didn't really know much about calling. I thought it was just one of those kind of things, you know. And
Yeah. And
man, I
rattle.
had done that, and it never worked. And then I
Yeah.
listened to his podcast episode with Southern Outdoorsman, and I have listened to that episode probably 5 times,
Yeah.
just
Did he
because
rattle? Did he do any rattling on that or call? He did one podcast where he called a little
that's the one I'm talking about. Yeah.
and then rattle.
Yeah, yeah, he did some rattling. The thing, because I don't really rattle a lot. I haven't had much,
Yeah.
luck with that.
You're doing it too hard, man. You got to grind them bones together. He kept telling me to make them smoke.
Yeah,
Make them. You know you're doing it right when they're smoking. And I've heard Michael Waddell say that.
yep,
And then another guy on TV was talking about smoking the horns. And I'm thinking, like we think smoking the horn, just
yeah.
smoking them together, you know.
Now
But
he's
it's
talking about
not like
together.
you're grinding them, yeah. And just it's and I was blessed enough. I was blessed to get to see two mature bucks fight in the woods. They actually fought and
Yeah,
they tore woods down. They knocked saplings down. I mean, it was
dang.
when you went over there, it looked like you had took a rake and raked leaves back in
Yeah,
every direction for, it was a 30-yard square. But the way their horns were together, it made perfect sense after seeing it, is what Richard was telling me about cracking them together. They're pushing and then you pop. And then Clifton will tell you, man, you got to it's a certain set of horns. You can't just take some bony. If you want to call in bony horn deer, use bony horns and start
yeah,
clapping them together. But you get a set of dense, like shed, you find a really good heavy set of a mature buck, the matching set on a mature deer shed hunting. You can
mhm,
take that and you can call in every deer in the woods. You can call in doe and just, put them together, make them pop. Clifton does it. If you've watched his last video, uh, he rattled on there. He's got several videos where he rattles on there.
yeah.
I get tickled because him and Richard always gives him a hard time and asks him if he's breaking limbs or something like that. It's funny. Listening to them two guys go back at each other is fun. But
Yeah.
it's them were two big deer killing. There's not enough people that know either one of those guys. They
Oh
should
yeah. I
be
mean,
a lot bigger in the industry than they are for sure. So
yeah,
it's
Richard to me is like, because a lot of people look up like John Eberhart and stuff, and John knows what he's doing. And John's
mhm.
killed some good deer.
Yeah.
But Richard, especially being in the South and all of that, he's the one. And man, I gotta get him on the podcast. I don't even know if he still does podcasts. I've
He'll
tried
do
finding
one.
him on,
I think he did one last week. He was telling me. He texted me and
okay.
said he was doing a podcast for a guy in Alabama, I think, or
Yeah.
Georgia, somewhere like that.
Yeah. I
Maybe
need
it's
to figure out
Mississippi. I don't even.
how to find him because that dude, I feel like if I was able to actually talk to him and say, all right, look, I've been listening to your stuff. I try to call just like you do, like the but see to me,
Uh,
my thing with I guess I'm doing it wrong because when I do it, it
well, maybe
sounds
the call. You also got to look at the call you're using.
well,
If
I
you're
bought
using a
one that he
Walmart
recommended.
special, huh? Oh, the
Yeah, I
Haribo.
got the Haydale's one.
Oh yeah, the Haribo.
I don't remember I don't remember the
Yeah,
name of it.
wooden one from a guy out of Arkansas.
No, no, it's plastic, but
Oh, is it?
he said he, obviously try to find a guy that makes calls. I don't even know
Uh-huh.
if anyone around here does that, but he
Yeah.
mentioned Haydale's and then the extinguisher. So I bought
Yeah,
the Haydale's
that
one.
buck roared. That extinguisher is a legit call.
Yeah, I need to get one. Tractor Supply around
Yeah.
here has them
Well,
all
you
the
can
time.
roar like you can roar on that one. I don't think you can. I don't know if you can roar on that uh heyday one. I'm not familiar with it,
Yeah,
but I know that
I don't think
extinguisher is
so.
a legit. Like you can get on it and call them in.
Yeah,
You want them to hear you. You got to
yeah,
think they're 150, 200 yards out there, and you blow on that one and it's loud. So
yeah. Yeah, I've
yeah,
been saying for 2 years now, ever since I first listened to him, that I'm gonna get that. And I went the other route. And I
yeah.
mean, it sounds right. It's just like you said, the cadence. And for me, it sounds too almost too robotic when I do it.
Mhm.
Because it's
Yeah.
literally like Brett, Brett, Brett,
Oh yeah, no,
like that,
yeah, and
you
then
know?
split it up with a burp, burp, burp,
Okay. See,
burp.
I
I
didn't know
don't
that.
do anything the same. Kind of like I listened to Phil Robertson a long time ago. I used to collect duck calls and hung around with a guy named Sonny Kirkpatrick out of Louisiana.
Okay.
And he made duck calls. He had hunted with Phil and a bunch of guys from up here that make duck calls. And Phil was, I don't know if he was on radio or he was talking because I was listening to him. And he was talking about duck blinds, and everybody's got these square duck blinds. He said there ain't nothing in nature square.
Yeah.
And you think about it, well, don't build a square duck blind. Build something that looks weird, that just looks natural to a duck, and you'll
Yeah.
kill more ducks. And that's what he said. And it's kind of like calling too. Don't call, no deer. It's the same way with a duck. If you listen to those old hens sit there and quack, some of them sound awful. And you're like, man, she sounds like she's about to die.
Yeah.
But she's calling in ducks,
Yeah.
It's just a quack. And I hunted with one of my best friends, Matt, his grandpa Pete. There'd be 15 people in the duck hole, duck hunting. This was when I was in high school, and I didn't carry duck calls. I wasn't going to call. And when a grown man was out there calling, it was a respect thing. I was going to let him do all the calling and tell me when to shoot. And he reached in his pocket and handed me a call, and he said, "We all gonna call. We're gonna sound like a whole bunch of ducks."
There you
And I
go.
said, "I don't know, Mr. Pete. I ain't a good caller." And he said, "You'll get good." And so I just sat there and worked on a feed call, tick, 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 and feed call. I fed call all day long and let them quack, and we killed a bunch of ducks. And so nothing. You can't do it wrong. Just don't sound like, if you think it sounds like a robot, switch it up.
Yeah.
Put a double in there. Or if you hear, I kind of think watching videos or watching deer, if you hunt enough in the woods, if you're in there, you'll get to see a deer grunt.
Yeah.
Or, and you'll get to hear him. So he's different when he's chasing a doe. He's different when he sees another buck. It just kind of, you can't mess it up. You got
Yeah.
to think, what do I want that deer to think I'm doing? Do I want him to think I'm a buck grunting at another buck, or do I want that buck to think I'm chasing a doe, so I'm gonna go over there and see what doe he's chasing. If he's on a hot doe, if I'm gonna sound like a little dumb 2-year-old deer chasing, and he's got his nose on that doe, you've seen him come by you at 15 miles an hour chasing the doe through the woods, grunting. Just sound
Yeah.
like that. That's what you're picturing, and that's what you want him to picture.
See, the
And
only thing
then
I've ever
the
heard in the
main
woods
thing
is a
is,
contact run.
well,
That's it.
here's the thing: you've got to face downwind. Be looking downwind, because that's the way the mature one's going to come. So
Sure.
when you're calling all the way around, working all the way around your tree, but you're always facing. You're expecting that shot to come from downwind. So, tying back into camo dust, you're dusted down. Always hunting I hunt the wind. I
Yeah.
hunt the wind every single time I go, but I use my sock, and that's the way I'm facing. I've got a ground blind set up on a food plot. I promise you, the deer that are coming in with the wind. Those mature deer are. It's weird for them to come in that way, and you're like, why would they? They're not. They're staging up and then coming into that food plot to that bait. So
Yeah.
it's you watch them. That's just what they do. The big ones do anyway. If they come out, uh, food plots don't have to be no big pretty food plots that they have on TV. Just I've never been. I say that, and I hunt next to a 200-acre wheat field, but my stuff's all grown up, so
Yeah.
I'm hunting the staging stuff, and then I've got a little bit of a little bait pile and some thick stuff. I like it to touch their belly, a little bit of that yellow grass
Yep.
that they feel a little bit safe in, and then you can throw some throw and grow down that's just a little bit of broadleaf in there that they'll like, so, or some winter
Yeah.
weed or something like that. So
Yeah. I mean, I kind of have the same setup. My phone's actually blowing up right now from all the does that are probably eating the corn I
I
put
just
out.
turned my notifications on,
Yeah.
and
That's why I
mine's
was
been
looking
going
over
off.
like what's there. I just got another notification. I
I'm gonna
guarantee you
turn
there's probably 5 or 6 does just eating the corn that I put out.
well, mine's probably
Look,
15 cones.
oh, dude, I texted my buddies, right? I put this feed out 6, 7 hours ago, and I texted them. I was like, all right, I got 130 pounds out. I've got this stuff called deer candy, which is the best feed I've ever seen. It
Mhm.
is phenomenal. But I texted them and I'm like, well, I put all this feed out, and you know what I've been seeing? Possums. That's all I've
Oh,
got. Possums and rabbits. And now the deer start showing up.
yeah.
So this is normal. I mean, they always do this when I put feed out. But look, I don't want to hold you for too long. So before we wrap this up,
Yep.
you brought out a can of camo dust, and I kind of stopped putting videos on YouTube, but I'm gonna put this one on YouTube so people can see it. Did you want to do like a little kind of demonstration with it?
Well, so one thing everybody needs to know, the sock comes in the can.
Okay.
So when you get your can, I still get a few emails a season where they say, "Hey, I got my can, but I didn't get my sock," and then they open it up because a lot of people get it and they think, "Oh, it didn't come," because it doesn't look like the picture, right? I've got the can and then I've got a sock outside the picture, but what we do, man, we preload it. You just pop the top. You're familiar with it. I've made it as simple as I can.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see it. I'm not going to dust the office up too bad, but you can see it and see how the wind's kind of blowing this way.
Yep.
And that's all I do. I just stand like that right there, just dust down
cloud
and get that cloud, let it blow into me. It's a good sock. That's a good sock. A lot of the time the guys will say, "Man," so I had a guy tell me, he's like, "Man, everybody says stuff is scent free until they, and then you get there and you can smell the packaging, you can smell, something is going to have a scent, and you open Camo Dust up, and there is no scent. That's the name of the game. I don't want a deer to know I'm there. They shouldn't know I exist. I have said it. I know I've said it 100 times. I promise you, there's deer that has died on Wattensaw wildlife management area that died of old age that never knew Chris Parnell existed.
Yep.
They didn't hear me, they didn't see me, and they didn't smell me. And they died, it was deer that just, I wasn't going to, I didn't shoot it for some, whether it wasn't big enough, wasn't legal, old nanny doe that I could guarantee you if you wanted to shoot, if you're sitting at this ditch at 4:15 in the afternoon, you're going to get the shooter.
Yeah.
She didn't know I was there. She never knew I was there. So, and
That's
it's fun. It's fun to watch. Yeah. You powder down, and watch the deer cut your trail. I walk right through. Well, I don't have that piece of property anymore, but I used to have 40 acres that we hunted, and we would walk right through the middle of the food plot. Excuse me. I really stuck up. That was a good song. That was a lot of dust came out. But anyway, I took me and Beckett and Jillian walked right through the middle of the food plot. We powdered down at the end of it, which is it's 100 yards from the end of the food plot to the box stand.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a bow set up, kind of it looks like a figure eight or a little hourglass. And I've got a bow stand set up right in the middle of it. You can shoot, both sides from that bow tree. And we walked right through the middle of the food plot. And I put the piles of corn, they're set up at 20 yards. Mm-hmm. And my kid, it's funny. Like Jillian was sitting in there a few years ago and she was scrolling through Facebook, and I was getting a lot of text messages with people saying, 15 yards, or they would tag Camo Dust straight downwind 10 yards, straight downwind 15 yards, or they'd send a picture of a deer at the base of their ladder stand. And she was like, "What's the big deal?" And I said, "Well, baby, you got to think people aren't used to like having deer within 20 yards. Like your bait pile's at 20 yards. You're going to use we're crossbow hunting, right?" And I said, "You're going to use the top pin on the crossbow." And I said, "These guys their top pin is where your third pin is. They don't start hunting until they're 30, 40, and 50 yards out there." Mm-hmm. And I said, you've been lucky. Her very first encounter with a deer was at 3 yards. I don't even think it was 3 yards. The deer was literally that far.
Good Lord.
Maybe a foot and a half, 2 foot from the blind. Jillian was 3 years old. She was sitting in my lap eating Skittles out of a little sandwich bag. And it was 63-degree day. And I was like, perfect day, put a hoodie on her. Let's go hunt. And we're not going to see anything, but we're going to go hunt. Right. I couldn't get her to wear camouflage. She had to wear, camouflage was ugly. So I had a pink and white camouflage hoodie on her.
Yeah.
And then some pants that had flowers all over them. They were pink and black flowers. That was and she was 3 years old, but that was, but she was going. So I was tickled to death.
Yeah.
That mama deer come, and we don't ever see deer before, 5 o'clock, mm-hmm. like at this 40-acre spot. And you just, you go and you're going to sit there until 5, right?
Yeah.
And it's just too close to the drive-in road, and the deer feel pressured until that late hour. But anyway, she's sitting there and she's eating Skittles, and we're watching this little squirrel and talking and just having fun. And I hear something, and I kind of look out, I lean up and look, I see a doe coming, and it's a mature, big mama doe,
Yeah.
and just bebopping right down the edge of the food plot. And I had just put this blind up with her, just popped it up, stuck the cherry, and she's sitting in my lap. And I just did it to be in the woods. And I powdered everything down with camo dust, inside, outside. We were dusted down. This doe walks right down the trail, stops right at the window and looks. Them ears are that wide. And she looks right in that blind and is going, like, running her tongue in her nose and taking big old whiffs, trying to smell and then run that tongue in there. Tongue was going in the nose on
Yeah.
that. It was just amazing. I was sitting there. I could feel Jillian's heartbeat through her back. Like, she was lean.
Wow.
And we had talked, and I said, hey, if we see a deer, we're not going to talk about it until we can't see the deer anymore.
Yeah.
And we have to be as quiet as we can, because we don't want to scare them. And she said, okay. So she sat there and was not moving, but her little heart was going. I mean, she had that fever, that buck fever. And
Yeah.
that deer stood there for probably, I don't know, it felt like a minute, but it was, 3 or 4 seconds. Who good sucks in on her breath. And then she put her head down and started feeding off and just kind of went away from us. Well, for a 3-year-old, she got out there about 15 or 20 yards, and Jillian couldn't see her anymore. They blend in, little saplings up everywhere.
Yeah.
And she might have been 25 or 30 yards, but anyway, she was far enough. Tail was just, every time her tail would twitch, Jillian said, oh, I see her, and then she'd raise her head up. She'd say, I see her. And then she finally got off, and she turned around and looked at me, and she said, that was the prettiest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I was tickled, but then I
Oh
thought,
man.
oh no, she's not going to shoot any deer. She said, did you see how big her eyelashes were? They were so long. And she did her hands up like that. And I thought, this kid's never going to kill a deer. That
Yeah.
kid will shoot every deer that steps out. It does not matter.
That is awesome,
Yeah,
dude.
she is a stone cold killer. She wants to shoot all the funny horn ones and every doe that walks out. So
That's
I
awesome.
got lucky that she didn't love them enough that she didn't want to shoot them. So
Yeah. Yeah. My daughter actually just told me this summer she wants a new bow for Christmas so she can kill a deer. And I about cried. I'm like, because I've taken her, same situation as you. She didn't want to wear camo and it was kind of cold out. So, I had her in this big puffy jacket. She had her iPad. We didn't see anything, but she told me, earlier this year she wants to get a bow that can kill a deer. And I'm like, okay. I was like, I have a
how old is she?
crossbow. Like, you can use that. She's 8 years old.
Oh, hey, yeah, that's
Yeah.
good.
And it's so funny, dude, because where her grandmother lives, that, she goes to her grandma's house all the time. And we're there constantly, dude. And the city they live in they have so many deer. I can almost tell you to a T how many does will be in this one field by the church. And every time we pass by it, dude, I'm like, all right, Tiff, look out the window, and she'll see them. And she's like, oh, there's so many deer. This kid gets excited by dead deer on the side of the road that the guts are hanging out, some of the heads are cut off.
You got to
And,
take her, man. You got to take
oh
her. Do y'all
yeah,
have like a youth season? Y'all have like
we
where it's
do, we
just youth?
do, we
Yeah.
do. So the
Get her
plan
out
for
there.
next year is I'm probably gonna take her with a gun. My wife's got this 243. Of course, it's in Muddy Girl camo, and so it's pink and it's all pretty.
Yeah.
And I told her, I was like, listen, if you want to kill a deer, that's fine. I got places on public we can go to as long as I can get you set up with a tag and license and all that. I don't even know if she's old enough actually to do that.
Yeah,
But
it's 6 here in Arkansas, so I bet she is.
yeah, see, I don't know. I have to look up Georgia's regulations, but either way, I told her, I'm like, you're gonna have to shoot this gun. You can take the crossbow if you want to, but the spot that I want to take you to, which of course is where I saw one of the biggest deer on public this past summer. Had him on camera, giant, just massive buck. That deer will probably show up next year when I take her, and she'll probably kill it, and then it'll be making these guys behind me look little.
That's right.
Which I'd be fine with. I'd be perfectly fine with it. But she is all for it. I mean, I'm trying to push her towards the bow stuff because that's all I hunt with is a bow. So if she decides to go the gun route, it's fine. I don't care, but
Yeah,
I'm
we
trying to
take
get it
full
on the
advantage.
most stuff.
We do everything but muzzleloader. The crossbow because it's bow season,
Yep.
and then gun season. My wife went and got her license. I guess she got tired of, well, the kids, Beckett, my son, uh, Jillian's 15
Okay.
and Beckett's 11. Beckett wants to wait. He's killed 3 or 4 bucks and he wants to wait on a big buck, a
Yeah.
mature buck. And Jillian wants to shoot all the bucks. And, so it's not fun if it's Beckett's turn. Jillian, we used to go together,
Yeah.
but Jillian wants to shoot like she wants to shoot one every time.
Yeah.
And Beckett's good with sitting there watching deer all season. And then
Just waiting.
like he wanted his first deer to be a buck. And then I told him we got down to the very last evening and I said, this is it, buddy. If you don't shoot one now, you're going to shoot one when you're 7 because
Yeah.
season's over after tonight. And he was good with it until I guess about maybe 15 minutes before shooting light was up.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I think I'm going to shoot that doe. And as soon as he squeezed the trigger, the deer run off. He died. That doe died in the food plot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm congratulating him, giving him a high five, and he's just shaking, got the buck fever. And he's like, I want to shoot another one. And I said, well, you waited, buddy. There's no more.
Yeah.
And I mean, I didn't more get, there's no more out there. Another one just kind of jumped out almost at the exact same spot that other one was. And was kind of looking at it. And I just shucked another shell in and he doubled up. So
Oh
he
man,
doubled
that's
up
awesome.
like with does, and then he doubled up the next year with bucks. So
Yeah.
but he did say shooting 2 bucks within 4 minutes was fun, but it wasn't fun not getting to hunt all season, like having to
Yeah.
watch all them other. He was nervous that, and I said, well, I'm there, so if a big buck comes out, I'll shoot it. He was like, you always said you wasn't shooting a big one if I was in the stand, and I said, well, if you don't have tags, I get to shoot it. So
Yeah. You still have
yeah,
to do it legally.
yeah. Jillian had a 140-inch 10-pointer come out on us one day, and she was still young, probably the biggest deer she's seen, and
Yeah.
he run a doe out and was running right towards us, and I stopped him and I said, shoot the deer. And at that point he was 70 yards away, 70, 75. And
Mm-hmm.
she said, I don't have my earmuffs. I don't have my her first deer was shot out of a blind in it or out of a box stand and it rang her ears real bad. So
Yeah.
she just had it in her head. Like any other time we shot, she had her earmuffs on. Well, I didn't even think about earmuffs. And
Yeah.
I'm like, shoot that deer. It won't hurt. I promise. And she wouldn't shoot it. And the deer come running in. I stopped him at like 40 yards, bleeded. He's looking at us. I had to take the gun and move it to the other window in the little box blind. And I said, baby, that's the biggest deer you're going to see for the next 5 years. You have to shoot it. Put it on his shoulder, squeeze the trigger. And she said, you shoot it, Daddy. And I said, you're in the deer stand with a gun. I'm letting you do it.
Yeah.
And we'll let it go before I shoot it. And she's like, I don't want my ears to hurt. And I said, I promise they won't hurt. Now she's gotten a little older. She thinks back at that deer. She can still picture it. And
Yeah.
she'll tell you, she said, I wish I had a shot because it don't hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That those big
But
deer, man, they'll get to you.
that first time rung her ears and she didn't want to shoot it. But other than
Yeah.
that,
I
man, I
mean,
get them out there. Like I said, I've hunted once by myself. I'd rather, if I don't get to hunt, I expect to hunt January. It slows down here at work enough to where January I'll get to go while the kids are in school.
yeah.
And so weekends now, while it's good weather and the deer are moving, I really want them to get one. If they get one, then I'm happy. So,
Yeah.
get
I mean,
both of
that's what
them
it's
up there
all
and I can
about, dude.
relax. Yep.
Like I've said it 1,000 times on this podcast, getting kids into it is extremely
Yep.
important.
Yep. Well, that's what makes Camo Dust so great. Weekend warriors, you only get 2 days to get the kids a deer,
Yep.
powder everybody down and go kill one or get a little bit better opportunity at one. So
Yeah. Yeah, I'll definitely be dusting Tiff down for sure when I take her.
Yep.
Because I am gonna take her this year. I don't know when. It's
you have
hard
to
to
give
find
her
time.
have to give her own sock. Every Saturday and Sunday they're not in school. My kids have their own sock. They pull
Yeah.
it out of their bag. Of course, they've got their own tote that their clothes go in. So I want them to be successful. You always want your kids to be successful. So
Mhm.
the way I would think I'm successful. I don't have a wall full of big giant bucks or anything
Well, you
like
got a
that. But
big buck
I've
behind you
gotten
though.
yeah,
I can see an antler. So
gotten
you're
to see.
successful in my book.
Yeah. But it's I don't have like Richard. I'm no Richard or Clifton, but I hang around with guys that kill big deer, and
Yeah.
I do what they do. I get to see a lot of deer. I don't, but I set them up. I've taught them how to, you close go in a tote, you do this, you do that. And it's just second nature to them. So it's,
Yeah.
I feel like they're ahead of the game. And they've grown up, basically hunting the edge of public land, so we're hunting pressured deer. Uh,
Mhm.
both the spots I have they butt up next to public. So I mean, it's just one of those deals where we're dealing with people, we're dealing with pressured deer. We might get to bait and have them come in, but they're still coming in skittish, or they're
Oh
they're
yeah.
working downwind and doing all that. So it's they're learning for when they finally do get old enough and we can go, on a 2 mile trek and get
Yeah.
up in a tree. And Beckett got his. He asked Santa for a climbing stand last year. Well, actually, he asked for his
Nice.
birthday, so he got that for his birthday. And
What
but he
kind did you
got
get
him
him?
an XOP.
Nice.
Yeah,
I was gonna
little
push for
sit and climb.
Summit because Summit's part of the podcast, but XOP is cool too.
Yeah, he's
I'm
70.
kidding.
He weighs 70. And if I told you, I was going to say 70 pounds. He weighs 79. We just weighed the other day, so he's a little bitty dude, but
Yeah.
he throws that thing on his back and can shimmy up that tree pretty good. So he
Yeah, man, that's all I'll
I'm
use as a
excited.
climber. I'm actually looking at upgrading um probably after this season because I've got an old Summit. I mean, it's great. It works fine, but I
Yeah.
want one of those open shots. It's basically a hang on
Uh-huh.
climber.
Yep.
And Clifton was telling me something about, the XOP's got one coming out. And I'm like,
Oh man,
well,
when you see it, you're gonna want it. Yep,
don't
you're
tell
gonna
me
want it. Yeah,
that.
I'm telling
I
you,
hope
it's
Jake doesn't listen to this. He's probably
yeah.
gonna call me and be like, man, look, dude, you gotta stop. You gotta stop. So I
Well,
guess before I get
yeah,
what's up?
there's different stands. I mean, there's different situations for every stand. I mean, there's
Oh yeah.
saddle situations. There's summit, a good tree to if you're not walking a long way. But man, it's hard to beat you know those 4 pound stands
Yeah.
or 11 pound stands. Something like that. And
Yeah. I
and
mean, I've always been a ground hunter, honestly. Every deer you see behind me, I've killed off the ground. And
really,
finally I killed a deer. I'm not proud of how it went, but I killed a doe. Was it last month? I think it was last month. Out of a tree stand. Had a broadhead failure. That's why we did the whole switch. And thank God VPA came on the week after, and we were able to partner up with them because now I don't have to worry about it. But
yeah.
I was using a mechanical. I'm not going to say what it was because I still love it, but it opened up on me and went about 8 inches right and gut shot this deer. Made
Oh
a
no.
hole about that big, so I'm sure you can guess which mechanical I'm talking about. Um, Never had any issues. I mean, that buck on the wall back there, I killed him with that exact same broadhead.
Hmm.
Went 70 yards and he was done. But it just happened to open up because I used the old retention clip, and it is what it is. But yeah, first year out of a tree stand, I've missed a few. I shot one in the shoulder that's actually still alive, and I could send you the pictures of it. It's wild how this deer
Huh.
survived because the shot looks perfect. I mean,
Yeah.
right behind the shoulder, should have been passed through double lung, and instead I hit the thickest part at the very top of the blade.
Oh,
Yeah, and
yeah.
she's still running around. I had pictures of her this morning. So
Hmm.
I felt a little bad, but look, man, I don't want to hold you too long. And honestly, we're both hungry now. We've been at this for 2 hours and
Right.
I'm starving. So I guess before we wrap it up, man, what can we expect to see from Camo Dust? Give me a shameless plug. And we're definitely gonna get you back on because there's a lot more that you and I can talk about. We could be here for
Yep.
hours.
Man,
So
we're just looking for more dealers in every state, and make it easy for guys to get access to it. Camodust.com we're on Amazon, uh, should be in Walmart next year. Uh,
awesome.
we've
Perfect.
been working with them for the last couple of years. We are on Walmart.com now. So when you go to camodust.com and you buy a single, it's through Walmart. So they do all single cans. So all the singles are through Walmart.com. It still ships out of here. It's drop shipped. So right now, other than Amazon, Amazon is the only one that doesn't come out of here. So if you buy from Amazon, that's on the Amazon guys that we've got worked out with them.
Gotcha.
Camodust.com. Uh, It's simple. I went to Shopify. I used to have a little different website. So if you were on there last year, or really we just made the change at the early part of this season, just to track some stuff. I couldn't track stuff on that other website, and then start giving some discounts. Uh, Influencers like guys that have YouTube channels that do a lot of stuff for Camo Dust or talk on it, social media pages and stuff like that, can offer discounts on their pages, and then kind of help their viewers out, and then spread the word. So trying to do something, and I couldn't do that. I couldn't do the discount stuff was just way too hard to track. So I went to Shopify. It's a little bit different deal, a little bit different for me to learn. But other than that, the office manager that was with us for 27 years retired last Friday, and we have managed to still hit all our orders on time. So everything's going good. So she has me trained up. I got a little slow on the Facebook post the last couple of weeks because I've been doing a lot of training, making sure I understood how to do all of her ins and outs of her job. So
Gotcha.
Until we get a replacement in here for her. So but man, everything's going smooth. We just trying to get a can in everybody's hand so they can become a believer. And that's it. Next year, use Camo Dust when you predator hunt after season. Use it right now. There's a whole lot of hunting left. I mean, we're only right at the 1st of December, and it's fixing to kick back off here. Really, should be really good hunting in the next week or two here in Central Arkansas. And then, y'all don't get. I guess y'all's rut. It's kind of like Alabama's January. Or is it a little different there?
Our rut, I started seeing rutting activity first week of October.
And you've already got a deer that shed. So, I mean, it's wild there. So, yeah.
But see, they usually don't shed till February or March out here. So I don't know. I've got a buddy of mine. He had deer running through the woods and the hawks were black and everything. And now the hawks are back to normal. They're not chasing. I mean, he thinks it's over. I don't know.
Do y'all have two? Do y'all usually have two? We usually have two ruts here. So, I mean, y'all haven't had the second one. I would think December.
Well, I don't know, because one of the properties I hunt, I've literally seen them rutting into February. Yeah. So on that property, it starts mid-October, and I was watching them rut, and they didn't even shed till March. So I mean, every property down here is different. These deer are weird, man. They're much different than stuff you would see in a normal place like Illinois, Iowa, even Tennessee. I mean, even places I know of in Georgia, they stop rutting late December. For some reason, the place I'm on, they're still going hard after regular season's over. So I don't know.
Yeah. We'll just have everybody stay in the dust. Stay dusty. I like to say stay dusty. So yeah.
I love it. Awesome, dude. Well, thank you for coming on. We're definitely gonna get you on, and I will talk to those potential vendors the next time I'm up there.
Yeah, that'll work.
And yeah, dude. Just I believe in it.
I sure appreciate you.
Yeah, dude.
Thank you for having me on.
I'm gonna push it, and I fully believe in it. I'm not going away from it. So
sounds good, man.
You got a lifetime customer.
Well, we like to hear.
Awesome, buddy. Well, y'all have a good night, and dude, let's stay in touch. I feel like I don't hear from you enough.
I know, right? I look back at 9:00 at night. I'm starting to scroll through old messages that I missed during the day. So catch good, back man. Up. So yeah, awesome, we'll get it. Thank you. I'll message you.
Yeah, for sure. Please stay in touch, because
yes, sir,
I want to know what's going on. I need to get in touch with Richard and have Clifton back on and all that stuff. So who knows, man? Maybe we can do like a 3-person deal.
Yep.
You, Clifton,
do a little campfire deal. Yep.
That'd be great. Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks, bud.
Yes, sir.
See you.